Belgium has French and Dutch as main languages. You can't not know Dutch and be living in Brussels. Fuck you. Anyways, that's my, that's the only time I've gotten angry about languages and people not speaking a language, and it was in Brussels, because, like, hello! But I'm ready. Are you ready?
I'm not going to get any more ready.
Well, actually you could, because you're not centered in your camera right now.
Does that matter?
Yes, it does. It makes my editing job way easier, because I don't have to be the father and daughter comprehensive news of Planet Earth podcast, where we look up our news stories 10 to 15 minutes before we start without any caffeine. So, it's headline time. Today on Before Coffee. British Everest explorer remains found 100 years after disappearance, and how your phone can save endangered languages.
And we remember the life of Ethel Kennedy, who has passed away at the age of 96.
Unions and business react to new workers' rights bill in the UK.
And we go into South America, where we have fires in Peru, and Uruguay is voting to lower its retirement age.
For our culture news, how is Netflix's Emily in Paris creating discord among European leaders?
And it's National Coming Out Day, so if you're coming out today, it's a good day for it. If you're coming out, let your friends and family know that, hey, I'm not who you think I am.
Not who you think I am.
On October 11th, 2024, on Before Coffee.
Okay, time for the stories of all the stories. Let's begin first with a story coming out of Everest and the UK as well. The remains of a British mountaineer are believed to have been found on Everest after 100 years of speculation surrounding his disappearance. Well, he went to go climb Mount Everest and he never came back. Hope nothing bad happened to him. Yeah, I think everyone already knew.
Probably met
this guy
somebody,
is not alive. This is from George Lithgow on The Independent. Andrew Sandy Irvine was the youngest member of the 1924 Mount Everest expedition and was lost on the upper slopes of the mountain with George Mallory when the two vanished on June 8th that year. And then what happened? Well, they were last seen when they were about 800 feet from the summit. Oh, they almost made it. They could have been up there and said, wow, this is the tallest point on the earth. Alright guys, let's go back now. Just making a joke about people who, you climb, you go hiking with your family and you're like, here it is, kids! We made it! And then the kids are like, I'm tired, I want to go home. Why did we do this?
Right.
The mystery of whether the duo reached the top before their death has been debated by climbers and historians for decades. In the latest development, a sock embroidered with A.C. Irvine and a boot have been discovered on the central Rog Boot Glacier below the north face of the Mount Everest by a team funded by National Geographic Documentary Films for an upcoming documentary. The finding is the first possible proof of the 22-year-old adventurer's death since the ill-fated 1924 expedition to be the first to summit the 8,849-meter mountain. The Irvine family has volunteered to compare DNA test results with remains to confirm his identity. The sock and boot were found at a lower altitude than Mallory's remains, which were located in 1999 by climber Conrad Anker and are now in possession of the China-Tibet Mountaineering Association, which is responsible for climbing permits on Everest's northern side. The climb team member and National Geographic explorer Jimmy Chin said, "Sometimes in life, the greatest discoveries occur when you aren't even looking. This was a monumental and emotional moment for us and our entire team on the ground, and we just hope that we can finally bring peace of mind to his relatives and the climbing world at large." I think if he died over 100 years ago, I don't know if there's any of his relatives are still alive, unless he had children. I guess if he had children, his children are still alive. But, I think it's more for the climbing world at large. Yeah. Thank God, if I climb Mount Everest, I'll know one day somebody might find my body. One day. Irvine's great niece and biographer, Julie Summers, said she had been moved to tears when she found out about the discovery. Yeah, great niece. I don't think she ever met the guy. Maybe. But I doubt it. I've lived with the story since I was 7 years old when my father told us about the mystery of Uncle Sandy on Everest. The story became more real when climbers found the body of George Mallory in 1999. I wonder if Sandy's body would ever be discovered next. Professor Joe Smith, director of the Royal Geographical Society, said of the discovery, as joint organizer of the 1924 Everest expedition with the Alpine Club, the Society deeply appreciates the respect Jimmy Chin's team has shown Sandy Irvine's remains and their sensitivity towards Sandy's family members and others connected to that expedition. Sandy was an exceptional figure and made significant contributions to the understanding of Everest in the Himalayas. An Irvine family statement said, "We are grateful for the mountaineering and film team, led by Jimmy Chin, who made the discovery and who have treated it with respect and professionalism." Unlike me, who's like, does anybody even know this guy? Anybody who ever met him and cared about him? Even alive? I don't think so. But that mystery's been solved. They finally found the two pairs that went missing in 1924. Talking about the Himalayas, there's people there who are indigenous to the region. They're actually usually the people who help you get up the mountain. But they only lead you up a certain part, and I think they're like, "I'm going home. You're crazy for going up this high." You can go the rest of the way if you want. I think that's what happens. I'm not sure. I've never planned on climbing Mount Everest ever. It's not really.
The Sherpas go up all the time.
But I'm sure they speak indigenous language. And with the use of your phone, you can also help keep indigenous language alive, according to this article on Mashable by Janine Oliveira and Juliana Reblato, who are working for Motorola, as they're looking to help the global threat to linguistic diversity and they're going to tell us what the company's doing about it, I guess. So, languages are more than just a means of communication. They encapsulate the essence of a person or community's identity, history, and culture. But languages, and everything that comes wrapped up into complex fabrics, don't last forever. And unfortunately, it's the lesser spoken indigenous languages that are at risk of slipping away first. Not lesser because they're indigenous, but lesser because less people speak them. The global threat to linguistic diversity is critical. UNESCO estimates that indigenous language disappears every 2 weeks, so that by the end of this century, they're losing 3,000 unique languages forever. The time of essence is vital we embrace modern technology to help preserve these precious assets stretching back thousands of years. But why do these languages even matter? They're often spoken by small, marginalized communities, making them more susceptible to overwhelming dominance of global languages. As the world becomes more digitally connected, indigenous languages face a higher risk of disappearing. If they fade, their rich cultural heritage and histories will be lost alongside any daily usage. I can't read this because the last known speaker of the language died 10 years ago. Wow, I wish I knew what it said. Preserving, reviving indigenous language is essential for the survival of the communities that speak them and has benefits for societies at large. It guarantees that all cultures are acknowledged and protected, which is an important first step in building a more accepting and understanding global community. Hey, I'm all for accepting and understanding global communities. It's probably one of the things I strive for the most. So, what is the technology they created? Well, it was a proud moment for Motorola and the Lenovo Foundation when they launched the Indigenous Language Support Initiative in 2021. Since that time, with over 90 languages incorporated in smartphones, Motorola has supported the revitalization of language including Kuvi, Kangri, India, Cherokee, North American, Ngatu, Amazon, Pangang, South and Southeast of Brazil, Maori, New Zealand. Notably, Mora was the first phone manufacturer to provide Cherokee residents with a fully localized mobile phone user interface and full support for an Amazonian indigenous language. Finally, most recently, Motorola added Ladin, one of Italy's 12 minority languages spoken in the Dolomites region. So it's not just the colonized people that are getting their languages back, but also people who are living in Europe, southern Europe. Technology provides a means to keep languages alive, but also fosters digital inclusion by providing chances for these languages to be used in fresh, innovative ways through their incorporation with user interfaces. It becomes part of the user's digital identity, especially younger generations, and gives a closer connection to their heritage. Yeah, this is why my phone and my Facebook and my social media are all in Dutch, if they let me, because I can see the words more often, and then I can learn the language more passively than just actively reading and studying it. And that is how people lose their native languages. They're just not using them for anything. You know, they say hello and goodbye and, you know, talk about their day, but they don't see it all day. And that's also why places like Wales, right, and Ireland, they have Gaelic or Welsh just on their signs, because if you see it more commonly, you're able to actually use it more commonly. Beyond accessibility, these tech solutions offer hope for the future of language revitalization. Since the Motorola and Lenovo Foundation's initiative, similar projects have been created, such as the first ever Ngangatu Academy of Language in Brazil and Lenovo's Aotearoa bilingual keyboard in New Zealand. And they're hoping more will follow. So, the Hello Indigenous White Paper was their call to action to support language diversity worldwide. Collaboration is at the heart of the paper's strategy, given it was developed in conjunction with Indigenous communities to ensure the accuracy of the digitalization of their language. By detailing Motorola's approach to integrating these languages into its user interfaces, it also established a model that wider industry can apply. The paper shows even a language with limited speakers, Landon only has 32,500, can find a place in the digital landscape. The UN General Assembly declaring 2022 to 2032 the International Decade of Indigenous Languages will help sharpen minds, but action must then follow suit. As the global focus on Indigenous language grows, technology holds the potential to bridge the gap between cultural preservation and modern innovation. The work done in smartphones for Motorola and the Lenovo Foundation, supported by UNESCO, is just the beginning. With sustained investment, collaboration, and innovation, digital technology can become a powerful ally in the revival and preservation of endangered languages. So I guess go buy a Motorola today and start learning some Kangang from southern and southeast Brazil, so you can talk to the people from there. That's my 2 stories. On to yours.
All right. In celebrity death news, I guess, I usually hit this on Fridays on our news dump. Ethel Kennedy has passed away. This is from USA Today. All right. Ethel Kennedy, a human rights advocate, widow of the late Democratic icon Robert F. Kennedy and matriarch of America's most famous. She was not the matriarch of America's most famous political family. That would be Rose Kennedy, JFK's mom. I don't know why they're making RFK. Why are they making JFK's son's wife the matriarch? She wasn't. It was Rose Kennedy. Anyway, they don't know what that means. Apparently, the editors here. Anyway, R. Kennedy's widow died Thursday morning after complications of a stroke she suffered earlier in the week. She was 96. Carrie Kennedy, daughter of Ethel Kennedy, announced the death of her mother in a statement on social media. It was with heavy hearts full of love that we announced the passing of our mother, Ethel Kennedy. Along with lifetime's work in social justice and human rights, our mother leaves behind 9 children, 34 grandchildren, and 24 great-grandchildren. Now, she's a matriarch of that family, but she's not the matriarch of JFK. She was JFK's sister-in-law, you know. She wasn't JFK's mother. I mean, but JFK's mother would have been the matriarch of Kennedy presidency, right? Not his sister-in-law. Anyway, Ethel Skankle became her maiden name. Skankle became Kennedy in 1950 when she married Robert F. Kennedy, who would go on to become U.S. Attorney General in the administration of his brother, former President JFK, and later U.S. Senator for New York. Robert F. Kennedy and Ethel Kennedy had 11 children. 11, there's a Catholic family for you. Not as many as my family, though. Ethel Kennedy rise. Okay, that's a picture. Ethel Kennedy endured the tragedy of the assassination of her brother-in-law, John F. Kennedy, in 1963. 5 years later, the assassination of her husband, Robert F. Kennedy, who was killed on June 6, 1968, by a gun in Los Angeles after giving a speech as he campaigned for the Democratic nomination for president. Asked in a 2014 NBC interview what had inspired her, Kennedy said, "First, Bobby and his life, and of course, Jack." Yet their deaths weren't the only tragedies in her life. Ethel Kennedy's parents were killed in a plane crash in 1955, and she lost a brother in a 1966 plane crash. Ethel's son David died of a drug overdose in 1984. Her son Michael was killed in a skiing accident in 1997. Now we remember that one.
Damn.
Her son Michael and his stupid friends were playing football on the ski slopes amongst the trees. So, playing football on skis, and he smacked into a tree, going really fast downhill. So that's how he died. And granddaughter Ciarci died in 22-year-old of an accidental drug overdose in 2019 at the Kennedy family compound in Hyannisport, Massachusetts. Lots of tragedy, Ethel Kennedy's life. She was a devout Catholic and a daily communicant, and we are comforted knowing she is reunited with the love of her life, her father, Robert F. Kennedy, her children, David and Michael, her daughter-in-law, Mary, her grandchildren, Maya and Ciarci, and her great-grandchildren, Gideon and Joseph, who apparently died very young. The Kennedy family statement reads, Ethel and Robert Kennedy were with their children. Ethel and Robert F. Kennedy with their children in McLean. Oh, that's a picture. That's why it doesn't make any sense. Okay, never mind. Read the caption of a picture. Not a good plan. President Joe Biden, in a statement called Kennedy an American icon, said she was a matriarch of optimism and moral courage, an emblem of resilience and service. Devoted to family and country, she had spine of steel and a heart of gold that inspired millions of Americans, including me and Jill. We were blessed to call her a dear friend, Biden said. Divisions within the Kennedy family have been in the political spotlight this year after RFK Jr., and one of Ethel Kennedy's children, ran as an independent candidate for president before dropping out in August and supporting a Republican nominee, defendant J. Trump. Kennedy's bid was publicly opposed by every member of his family, including Kerry Kennedy. Ethel Kennedy sought to carry her husband's works with the founding of the Robert F. Kennedy Human Rights Center in Washington, D.C. Her work also surrounded many charitable causes, including raising money for Lou Gehrig's disease research, fighting poverty, and supporting social justice and environmentalism. Ethel Kennedy helped lead efforts to clean up Washington's Anacostia River and restore New York's Bedford-Stuyvesant neighborhood. Today, a bridge crossing the Anacostia River is known as the Ethel Kennedy Bridge. Biden said Kennedy showed our whole nation a way forward, turning pain into purpose and continuing his march towards civil rights and social justice, and to end poverty at home and securing peace abroad, all while raising 11 children. After losing his daughter and wife in a car crash in 1972, Biden said Kennedy was there for him and his sons. She helped us find strength and perseverance. She taught us how to channel grief into the service of a greater good, Biden said. In 2014, President Barack Obama awarded Ethel Kennedy the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Ethel has been a force for change in her quiet, unflashy, unstoppable way, Obama said in the 2014 White House ceremony, honoring her with the medal. As her family will tell you, and basically occupy this half of the room, you don't mess with Ethel. She is an emblem of enduring faith and enduring hope, even in the face of unimaginable loss and unimaginable grief, Obama added, and she has touched the lives of countless people around the world with their generosity and grace. So, Ethel Kennedy passes away at 96. Another voice from the past is silenced. Doesn't get philosophical about it. Back to you.
Quite old, quite long life, and always stuck to what she believed in. And that's admirable, and especially in these times. So, next story, we're going to talk about unions and businesses reacting to the new workers' rights bill that has been, I don't know if it's been passed or being passed in the UK. This is by Gabriel Mackay on the Herald Scotland. The UK government has published a new employment rights bill saying it's the biggest upgrade in workers' rights in a generation, though one leading trade union warned it contained more holes than Swiss cheese. Sir Keir Starmer promised to bring forward what was dubbed the New Deal for workers within 100 days of election of a Labour government. And, well, he's tried to keep his promise through some measures that will not come into place until the autumn of 2026, with the bill not expected to become a law until June or July 2025. The bill will repeal 2 conservative acts placing restrictions on trade unions and strike actions, with new measures to protect workers from dismissal and blacklisting for trade union activity, ensure workers understand their right to join a trade union, and to simplify the statutory recognition process and bring in a new right of access for union officials to meet, represent, recruit, and organize members in the workplaces. Other provisions include reinstating and straightening the 2-tier code for public sector contracts, statutory sick pay from the first day of absence rather than the 4th, and day 1 entitlement to paternity leave and unpaid parental leave, and increased protection from sexual harassment in the workplace. Wow, this sounds good, so what's so bad about it? However, there will be no ban on 0-hour contracts. Instead, exploitative 0-hour contracts will be banned. Okay, I see. There's the first hole in the Swiss cheese, so to say. Let's give it an adjective, and then you will define the adjective ourselves. So, This isn't exploitative. We told them that they would basically not work at all and we'd never pay them, but they're still hired. What do you mean? In addition, the practice of fire and rehire will still be allowed in exceptional circumstances. Yet another vague term that means nothing. So you can just say, well, it was exceptional circumstances. Okay.
Exceptional.
Whatever that is. Labour has also pledged a right to switch off, which would seek to stop employers contacting staff out of hours. But this is included in a next steps document for future discussion, so it's not in this actual bill, but they might pass something for it later. Yes, the right to switch off, this is something a lot of people have been fighting for in every place that people work under capitalism. I'm not on the schedule. Today is my day off. Don't fucking call me about how there's a problem at work as somebody who's working right now. If I'm that irreplaceable, you better be paying me double what I'm making now. You know? If you can't survive with me not being at work for 2 days, you have some serious organization issues that you need to work through, okay? Anyways, other proposals set out in the Make Work Pay document released pre-election, such as single status of worker and ensuring equal pay between in-house and contracted staff and public services, were also not included in this bill. Mike Wellhen, General Secretary of ASLEF, the Train Drivers Trade Union, and Chair of TULO, which represents all unions affiliated to the Labour Party, said ASLEF has long campaigned for the New Deal, working first with Andy MacDonald and then with Angela Rayner, an opposition then government, to produce the document which went into the party's manifesto at the general election, and much of which is in the Employment Rights Bill to be laid before Parliament today. It will see the biggest upgrade to workers' rights in a generation, and when it is fully complete, help us start to rebuild our communities and our country. The bill announced today is a vital step in delivering the New Deal and will put in place a stronger rights for workers, as well as repealing recent anti-trade union laws. Security at work and stronger unions have been more important. After 14 years of Tory rule, which reduced living standards for hard-working people and made it more difficult for all except the very wealthiest, it was, and is, time for a change. That's what people voted for in July, and that's what this government has promised to deliver. This is just the start of rebuilding Britain. We are proud to have worked with Angela, a trade unionist to her core, to bring forward the new package of laws and rights for workers. Over many years, Angela has stood shoulder to shoulder with workers across the economy, fighting for a better deal, and is now using her role in government alongside Jonathan Reynolds, Secretary of State for Business, and Justin Matters, Minister for Employment Rights, to make the real change that working people need. However, Sharon Graham of Unite was more cautious. She said, This bill is without doubt a significant step forward for workers, but stops short of making work pay. The ends to the draconian laws like minimum service levels and the introduction of new individual rights, for example, on the bereavement leave, will be beneficial, but the bill still ties itself up in knots trying to avoid what was promised. Failure to end fire and rehire and zero-hour contracts once and for all will leave more holes than Swiss cheese than hostile employers will use. I agree. Zero-hour contracts are like the scummiest of scummy things. I hired you, but we're not going to give you any work. But if you go get another job, we're going to fire you. So you're just stuck in this weird limbo. We're doing nothing. The bill, and that means you also can't get unemployment, right? Well, it says here you're working for, McDonald's. Yeah, but it's 0-hour contract, dude. I'm not getting any work. They're not paying me. Well, unfortunately, since you have a job, we're not going to give you unemployment, and you're going to have to default on your rent. Oh, great. Thanks, McDonald's, for not... This is just an example. Unite will continue to make workers' voices heard as we push for improvements into legislation as the bill goes through Parliament. Matt Rack, Fire Brigade's Union General Secretary, said, "This is a very significant extension of the worker rights and a huge victory for the FBU and other unions that have been at the forefront of campaigning to ensure that Labour's New Deal for working people is fully delivered. The banning of zero-hour contracts, the outlawing of fire and rehire, and other despicable working practices promoted by the Tories are long overdue. The lives of firefighters and other public sector workers will be immeasurably improved by the new rights to bereavement leave and parental leave from day one of employment. The leadership of the FBU has long fought for an irreversible shift towards extending the rights of working people. There must be no delay in the full implementation of this huge welcome package. That must be reflected in pay offers to firefighters and other public sector workers in the budget later this month." So, a lot of people are happy, a lot of people are sad. Robert Hall, and the announcement is only a signal of their intention, and hopefully in the next 14 years, if Labour can keep in power for the same length the Tories were in power, they can help improve the lives of workers everywhere instead of making these little lukewarm promises as they try to get everything back on track. That's my story. On to yours.
Okay. And as promised, we're going to go to South America, Peru. First, as we're going to talk about the wildfires down there. This is from Reuters.com. Alexander Villegas and Marco Elquino. Let me get to the story. There's a lot of stuff at the top there. A record number of fires tore through Peru over the past few weeks, wreaking havoc across the country's ecosystems as grasslands, dry forests, coastal areas, and the Amazon were set ablaze. In northern Peru, speckled bears fled, burning dry forests to nearby towns where some were shot by frightened residents. Oh, kill the bear, it's frightened. Yeah, again, people just kill whatever they don't understand. Jaguars in the southern Amazon with nowhere to flee were left charred on trees. Grasslands and wetlands that play a key role in the storing water were left in ashes. The rainforest is usually impervious to fire, said Paul Rosiali, a conservationist and founder of the Jungle Keepers, an NGO that patrols and preserves the Amazon of Peru, adding that they've seen burned turtles, snakes, birds, and jaguars after recent patrols. The forest is their world, so when you burn it, they die. The Global Wildfire Information System, the GWIS, which tracks wildfires by satellite, shows around 10,400 fires in Peru in 2024, more than double the previous record in 2020 and nearly 2.5 times the total area burned. Record fires have been recorded across South America this year. Bolivia, Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay registered the largest numbers. This year there's been more regions, more ecosystems, and more species affected. a legal specialist for the Peruvian Society of Environmental Law, the SPDA, adding that both human and environmental factors led to such widespread fires. Aside from less rainfall and higher temperatures after the end of El Nino weather phenomenon, Zari says a failed government response and human-started fires led to widespread destruction. Peru's President Dina Boluarte acknowledged that the country lacked logistics to fight the fires, which declared a state of emergency in September. There's nothing in Peru. That's the problem. There's no help, said Robin Appleton, founder of Speckled Bear Conservation, an SPC, an NGO that protects the speckled bears in Peru's northern dry forests. Alexander Moore, executive director at SBC, said the bears have adapted to their drier climate and are able to go months without water, unlike other speckled bears across the Andes. With only a few hundred bears in the population, Moore says conserving everyone is essential to the ecosystem. Fragmentation and loss of habitat is the biggest threat to these bears, Moore said, adding that the SBC works with local communities to educate, incentivize conservation, and help fight fires. He says modifications to the forest law in January made it easier to use the forest land for agriculture by removing some environmental requirements and emboldening local farmers to burn more land, sentiment echoed by Rosalie and Zari. We're really afraid, and that's why we're trying to do everything we can to work with the community to deal with this, because it isn't going to stop, Moore said, adding that if the governments promote land use and business over environmental regulations that fight climate change, extreme weather will continue to devastate. So bad news in Peru as wildfires, and it's just the beginning of spring there. So wildfires out of control, burning like crazy, killing animals, stranding animals. Other South American news on the stranger side, I would say. Uruguay referendum could see retirement age falling to 60. This is from Lucinda Elliott from Reuters. Uruguay heads to the polls to vote for a new president this month, but investors have a wary eye on another ballot, a referendum to lower the retirement age in a fast-aging nation that some fear may cripple the country's finances. The small but relatively affluent South American country of 3.4 million people has long been seen as a bastion of free market and private enterprise in the region, which has attracted tech and finance firms fast developing along its Riviera coastline. But if approved, the reform would uproot a private pension system in place since 1996 and drop the retirement age by 5 years to 60, landing the government and taxpayers with a large bill. The move echoes popular anger with the smaller pension pots elsewhere, but would mark a rare instance for a country lowering its retirement age, with nations including France, Britain, Japan, and China all recently going the other direction. The reform has been prompted by left-wing unions who argue that it would preserve the workers' dignity in retirement by allowing them more money for a longer period. Despite the opposition of most political parties, the unions secured enough support on a petition in April to force the plebiscite, which is binding. Opinions show around half of Uruguayans favor the reform and about 40% against, although that number has been rising. The October 27th vote needs the simple majority to pass. Pretty much anybody near 60 is probably voting for it, right? And a bunch of young people are like, I don't want to pay for all these old retirees. That reform would make any current economic or social security policy unviable, said Uruguayan economist Maria Dolores Benavente, adding it would mean the country going back to the unsustainable system that had been changed in the 1990s. The rising possibilities of a pension reform has led the Uruguayan peso to weaken over 10% against the dollar since April. If approved, it would compromise the medium-term fiscal sustainability, J.P. Morgan wrote in a recent note, adding that the retirement age would drop. The retirement age drop would widen the pension deficit, while raising lower-end pensions would cost an extra $1 billion per year. Uruguay's currency has weakened since left-wing unions got enough votes in April to push forward a referendum. The reform proposes scrapping private pension schemes and shifting to a public model, which analysts said would put bigger debt burden on the state, create large legal complexities around transferring pension funds and put Uruguay's investment-grade credit rating at risk. Uruguay is one of the region's oldest population, with a median age around 36 compared to 32 in South America. That creates a potential time bomb for the economy down the road as a large wave of people retire. So you have a higher median age and your people are living longer, but that's bad for your economy, apparently. Conservative President Luis Lacalle Pou has called the reform dangerous and harmful. Is there anybody in favor of this? Because every person they're interviewing is against it. Is this an actual article or is this an opinion piece? Is what
I don't know. Yeah,
because they don't seem to be anybody in favor of this, right? According to this article, but a lot of people signed that petition, didn't they? Anyway. This conservative guy calls it dangerous and harmful and says it would put public finances on an unsustainable path, crushing confidence. His coalition faces a battle to stay in power against a center-left coalition. Many voters in capital of Montevideo, however, said the Yes campaign was winning them over with the hope it would bring them more money. We have meager pensions in Uruguay. Retirees in this country are poor, said 68-year-old educator Jose Luis Correa, adding that he had to keep up working out of necessity to cover his costs. Well, that's America, too. That's why I support the end of the private pension funds. If they can cut out private pension fund managers, it'll be more for us and future retirees. Another Montevideo resident in his mid-50s who asked not to be named but said he was planning to vote against the reform, said he was worried about his private savings and thought the no camp was not doing enough to convince people. Nicholas Salidas, Uruguayan analyst at Economist Intelligence Unit, said the political classes were largely optimistic the referendum would fail, but maybe misleading the mood among voters could get a shock. Maybe misreading the mood among voters and could get a shock. This could be Uruguay's Brexit moment, says Salidas, referring to the 2016 referendum in the United Kingdom that they pulled out of European Union. The population may vote in favor of it, despite what the establishment is saying. Yes. I don't have an opinion on this. I don't know what their financial budget situation is, but to pass a retirement law with a pension, you have to fully fund it immediately, would you not? I would think. So, there's your story on South America. We're not ignoring that part of the globe. Back to you. And I did send you a video. It's less than 2 minutes. You should maybe just chop off the end.
I'll get that after
chop
this.
Off the end of it.
Chop off the end. Okay.
Yeah, right after. You'll know where to cut it. Anyway.
Well, it's interesting, all this stuff going. It's actually interesting because the general consensus for a lot of people who don't know anything about the world think that populations are all high in the south and all low in the north, right? Like that's the general idea, but that's not true. It's happening anywhere, and it's all due to what I want to say, capitalism. Right? But
I don't know what you just said.
Let's go ahead and talk about Netflix's Emily in Paris, which is pissing off not just people who know anything about France, but people who also, I'm really tired of getting spam called while I'm in the middle of the show. Also by some politicians, I guess. This is from David Morquand on Euronews Culture. What do you think of Netflix's ongoing hit show Emily in Paris? A beautiful looking bit of escapist rom-com fluff posing as a travelogue that deals with intercultural exchanges? Or a continuing piece of hot trash that indulges in every insulting cliche about the French that ought to be carted out the poubelle of humanity before anyone else is submitted to another dose of harmful bilge about an ignorant, vapid, irredeemable American millennial aping Carrie Bradshaw, who is not only unwilling to accustom to the country that welcomes her, but instead peddles mind-numbing bullshit that only delights delusional Instagram obsessive with Disney-filled Parisian guff that makes you want to hysterically pelt the titular white privilege incarnate heroine with hardback copies of Honoré de Balzac's La Comédie Humaine in a final attempt to make her and her makers realize they've created the dystopian equivalent of cringe in serialized form. That's a very long thing to think about the show. It's hard for me to agree with it though. By the way, Emily, Hubele, means bin. Just making sure, since you haven't bothered to even attempt to learn the sodding language after 4 sanity-corroding seasons in Paris. Judging by the link of this self-indulgent rant above, you can guess where David stands on here at Euronews Culture. However, the French President Emmanuel Macron might not agree with the tirade, as he's gone on to record saying he thinks it's good for the image of France, adding that the show is a super positive in terms of attractiveness for the country. In a recent interview with Variety, Macron shared he is super proud of a cameo appearance by his wife, Bridget, in the 4th season of the show. She plays herself in the second half of the season 4. I was super proud, and she was very happy to do so, Macron said. It's just a few minutes, but I think it was a very good moment for her. However, he draws the line at making a guest appearance of his own. I'm less attractive than Brigitte, the French leader said in an interview published Wednesday, which was the 9th of October? Yes, the 9th of October, when asked if he would be invited to make an appearance. However, there's trouble afoot. In the second part of season 4, Emily heads to Italy for a vacay, and Rome, be warned, Macron wants Emily to come back to French capital in future seasons. We will fight hard. We will ask them to remain, Macron said. Emily in Paris, in Roma doesn't make sense, he added. Cue Rome's mayor Roberto Guglielmi reacting to Macron's comments. Dear Emmanuel Macron, don't worry. Emily is doing very well here in Rome, Guglielmi responded on Twitter. And then you can't control the heart. Let's let her choose, he added. Why are they fighting over a fictional character's residence? Guglielmi also said that he spoke about Macron's comments with Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo. We see Emily's move to Rome as a confirmation that our city is becoming more and more important, and we are quite relaxed about Netflix production decisions. They know what they are doing, he added. To be honest, we think Mr. Macron should just relax. I agree. Why did he even throw anything in the fire to begin with? Hey, why are you leaving Paris? Come back here. She's not real, dude. She's not real. How about everyone else take a chill pill? Where there was once discord, allow Euronews to sow some harmony. How about they invite everyone to sit down, watch a couple episodes of Emily in Paris so that European leaders realize that while the show may boost tourism, it's nothing short of a stereotypical kiss of death for any respective country. Let's not fight. Instead, can we not all collectively say adieu, bon appetit to Emily in Paris once and for all? I do love this idea that everyone's fighting over having this terrible show. I can't believe it has 4 seasons as well. I've been watching, there's a TikToker who I think is an American living in France, but she actually, learned the language and is actually, I think she's like half French, so she has like an ancestral connection to France. And she does like funny skits where she's like, me pretending to be Emily in Paris. Oh, hi, I don't know French, but can I work for your company? You don't know French, and you're here. Can somebody get this idiot out of my office? That's what would really happen in real France if you went to work for a French company, didn't learn any French whatsoever. Don't even try, right? She doesn't even try to learn French. And she's just like this ditzy, I don't know. I don't like it either. I haven't watched the show, so I'm kind of just throwing my judgment behind other people's judgments. But I trust this TikToker, which I can't remember the name of him right now, who's basically living the actual life of Emily in Paris, realistically, and learned French, and knows how French people would react to you walking in speaking English. They wouldn't ignore you. French people are rude, okay? Don't get it twisted. They're not nice and friendly and welcoming. They're quite rude. And I don't even mean that in a bad way. People are allowed to be rude. That's your right as a human being. And it's just as rude to go to a country and expect them to speak your language to them because you're too much of an idiot to learn it yourself. I would never go to France and be like, oh, these people aren't speaking English to me. How dare they? I did do that in Belgium. But that's because Belgium, I know Dutch. I went to Brussels and I spoke Dutch to the lady, and the lady was like, huh? Speaking French. I'm like, come on, dude. Belgium has French and Dutch as main languages. You can't not know Dutch and be living in Brussels. Fuck you. Anyways, that's my, that's the only time I've gotten angry about languages and people not speaking a language, and it was in Brussels, because, like, hello? You don't know Dutch and you live in Brussels? Fuck you.
Did she speak English?
No, they didn't speak English either. They were just like, French. I don't know French. Sorry. Okay, I'm an idiot. I don't know French. But I know Dutch, and I thought I was going to be safe. I thought I was going to be able to communicate. All I wanted was a sandwich. I asked for a broodje, a sandwich. That's all I asked for. And she was like, I've never heard that word in my life. Okay, sure. You've never heard the word for sandwich. Anyways, that's my rant as well. That's my culture segment. And on to this day in history, which I remind everyone today that it is International Day of the Girl Child, which the United Nations says is addressing the challenges that girls face and empowering them to fulfill their human rights of being allowed to exist. Because guess what, guys? Especially the countries out there that used to limit birth rates and also limit which child was useful and threw their girl children in the trash, literally in the trash. You kind of need women to continue the human race. Men are great, you know. I'm not
That's
a man
why men
hater.
are sent to war.
I don't think all men should die. I don't feel that way. But the person who's giving birth to those men happen to be women, so you probably want to keep some of those. And that's why India, I think, has 4 men to every woman. Because all they were doing was keeping the men, and I'm like, okay, well, good luck having wives and children and grandchildren for your non-existent women in your country. Yeah, didn't work out, did it? But yeah, so today
we could read.
Celebrate International Child Day and appreciate your girl children and how they aren't just baby factories, to be fair. They're also humans who deserve to live. And on to this day in history.
You could have read the White House proclamation on the International Day of the Girl, because Joe Biden put out like a 7 to 9 minute proclamation. So there you go.
Really?
So it's not being ignored by the White House. Yeah, you can read it. You read it to yourself if you want. But it's 7 to 9 minutes long. On this day in history, and 1531, Protestant troops under Jorg Goyaldi were defeated by Roman Catholic Church at the Battle of Kappel during the Swiss Reformation. The big old Swiss Reformation. And that's when they invented the Swiss Army knife. In 1890, the Daughters of the American Revolution was organized. And that was basically a racist organization. And 1899, the South African Boer War began. That's right, between Great Britain and the 2 Boer republics, the South African Republic and the Orange Free State, which was Dutch.
Boer.
So the Boer Wars between the Britons and the Dutch and the South African Republic. Sorry, what's that?
Boer.
Boer? Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's how you say it.
Okay. Sorry about that.
I know Dutch, see? So...
the country they lost.
Afrikaans is in Dutch. It's close, though, so the pronunciation's the same.
They're all boring. What do you think of that? 1941, the film noir classic Laura, starring Gene Tierney and Dana Andrews, appeared in New York City. In 1958, the unmanned U.S. deep space probe Pioneer 1 was launched into lunar orbit. In 1971, British musician John Lennon's Imagine was released as a single, and the iconic song of Hope and Peace is arguably the best known work of his solo career. We're not going to sample that today because it's not going to get blocked again by Apple Music. 1974, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, NRC, was established by President Gerald R. Ford to oversee the civilian use of nuclear materials in the United States. So Gerald Ford did do something while he's in office. 1975, this the mic drop moment. We're featuring the TV sketch comedy and variety show Saturday Night Live debuted on NBC and became a landmark American television. So October 11th, in 1979, 49 years ago, Saturday Night Live went on the air. And I remember it. I saw the first show. I was there from the start, glued to my television. Not literally glued, but 1984, American astronaut Catherine Sullivan became the first woman to walk in space.
Yeah.
She's still there, walking around.
Baby.
No, just kidding. She's not still there. 1991, during the confirmation hearings of Clarence Thomas, who had been nominated to the U.S. Supreme Court a long frickin' time ago, and this grifter is still there. Anyway, during his confirmation, American lawyer Anita Hill testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee, accused him of sexual harassment. Her allegations polarized Americans. Thomas was still narrowly confirmed 52-48. Now, I bet you Joe Biden wants that vote back, because he was one of the idiots who voted to confirm him. And I'm like, Joe, what are you fucking doing? 2000, in a ceremony in London, the International Women of the Year Association awarded the title Greatest Woman Achiever of the Century to Russian cosmonaut Valentina V. Tereshkova, the first woman in space. So, big day for women in space today. 2002, the U.S. Congress passed a bill by a wide margin granting George W. Bush broad authority to use force against Iraq. That was a big fucking mistake. Of course, a lot of morons in Congress are convinced that Iraq attacked us on 9/11, which is a complete lie. They forced that lie on us. Our featured event, 1962. Opening of the Second Vatican Council. The Second Vatican Council, announced by Pope John the 23rd in 1959, opened in 1962, lasted 3 years, and remains a symbol of the Church's readiness to adopt a modern life. In our feature biography, Eleanor Roosevelt's birthday today. Eleanor Roosevelt, born in 1884 in New York City, and died in New York City November 7th, 1962, at the age of 78. So happy birthday to Eleanor Roosevelt, wife and widow of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Became, at one time, she was actually our first UN ambassador when the UN first opened, among other things. Humanitarian. Other birthdays today, Elmore Leonard, American author, born in 1925, wrote that pulp fiction that everybody likes to read. The Bobby Charlton, British football player and manager, born in 1937. Amitabh Bachchan, Indian actor, born in 1942. Dawn French, Welsh actress, born in 1957. And Steve Young, American football player.
She's great.
I'm sorry?
Dawn French is hilarious. She's great.
Oh, and Steve Young's birthday, American football player and descendant of Brigham Young. He was born in 1961, so happy 63 birthday to Steve Young. And what day is it today? National Day calendar, besides coming out day, it's National Sausage Pizza Day. And who doesn't like a sausage pizza? I do. Definitely want one right now. And it's also National General Pulaski Memorial Day. Who's General Pulaski? Well, let's find out. General Pulaski. This day is set aside. The United States recognized Kazimierz Pulaski, a Polish immigrant. Over 2 centuries ago, he joined the Continental Army and soon rose to the ranks of Brigadier General. Alongside George Washington, he built a legacy that included raising an arm of the colonial army as yet undeveloped at the cavalry. As such, he became known as the father of American cavalry. So it's General Pulaski Day. Good for him. Pulaski, General Pulaski Day, or Pulaski, however you want to pronounce it. Those are your days, those are your news. That is everything for this week, October 11th, 2024, on Before Sausage Pizza.
Hell yeah, sausage pizza. I love sausage. Sausage is great. Though American sausage is totally different from German sausage, obviously. And they don't put that on pizza. They definitely put
Nah. You're just gonna have it on a bun.
Of course, we also have Spanish sausage too, like chorizo, also good as well. So,
Chorizo
and Italian
eggs. Always go
sausage.
with
That's what they
eggs,
put on
yeah.
pizza. They put Italian sausage on pizza. Oh, some nice, good Italian sausage with all
Making me
those herbs
hungry.
and spices.
I'm never gonna get through this day if I'm hungry all the time.
Well, this has been Allison here from the Netherlands. I hope you guys have a great weekend because it's Friday. So, Friday news dump. We've informed you of everything that's going on. So now you don't have to worry and you can go out there in the world blissfully ignorant of anything else happening. And we'll see you on Monday to let you know what did happen. Because you don't have to worry about it until Monday, all right? That's on us. We will see you on that Monday, so don't forget to subscribe if you're not already, and of course turn on that notification bell so you get notified when we go live on the Mucking Fun Day for next week. And let's do our mic drop moment.
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.